Yeah, g'day and welcome back to this old lathe channel. Now, for my Bolly manual lathe, I've got this phase 2 copy of a Dorian AXA style tool post, and I've got 3, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18 tool holders for it. Whereas for my CNC converted mini lathe, I've got an OXA sized Aloris Dorian style, with 11 mostly homemade tool holders for it. I did a video on these back when I made them. Whereas for this wonderful Schaublin 125 CNC, it's got this pneumatic automatic tool changer with 4 stations. For this machine, I only own 1 extended length tool holder and 4 of the standard holders, and that's really not enough tool holders, so let's make some more. But before we get to the video itself, I got 2 questions for you. 1, how many tool holders do you own for your lathe? And 2, how many do you need? Actually, I'm not just limited to those 5 because I do own this one, which holds like the round tools, boring bars and stuff. And 5 tool holders is just not enough. Whatever your next job is, there's always something that's needed that's different. The one thing that does kind of take the edge off is I do have this little minor forest of round shank tools. So once I get this tool holder actually working, it's all gummed up at the moment, I could get 8 tools loaded at any one time if I use tool holders that have the hole in them. And the right size shank, of course. Tools loaded at any one time. But luckily, my mate in Malta, Luke, had a nice chunk of steel that was just about the right size. It has a nice horizontal bandsaw for chomping at the part into smaller blocks. He's also got a horizontal mill, great for roughing out the blanks, and the extreme generosity to do this for me. Thanks a lot, mate. You're a champ. This is going to be fantastic. I look forward to getting all these finished. Luke, thank you very much for your time and hospitality and your very generous gift of these set of tool holder blanks. I brought an empty suitcase with me to Malta just for this reason. I really appreciate it. You know, one thing I really don't understand, this extended reach tool holder, it's got a flat bottom, so it sits normally. All the standard tool holders, they chamfer off part of the bottom so they fall over. I don't get it. That's kind of dumb, and it's something I wouldn't have expected from Schaublin, because it's not like you need that clearance on a lathe. It's irrelevant. So the ones I make definitely won't have that chamfer. Well, it's about time that I started doing these dovetails. Okay, I just saw the parts move as it chomped into that corner. It's too aggressive, that cut. Oh yeah, it also moved up a bit, so it's gouged a little. I have to relieve the center anyway, so I guess we'll see whether that mark will remain in the corner, but most of it should be cut out. That scar I put in when the work moved is almost completely removed, and hopefully the dovetail cutter will take out the last little bit there. Okay, so this is definitely a different steel, much harder, much tougher than the practice piece I did in mild steel. So before I pull this out, just double check all the dimensions. Now the depth. So the original is 8.95 deep. And that's also 8.95, maybe 9.6. Okay, that's good. So let's check the distance across the dovetail. Okay, so that's a pretty nice feel with 33.60. What about the test piece? Let's call that 33.5. So how's this one looking? No, it's not going in, that's tight. Okay, so that's a pretty nice fit there with 33.3. I'll just run that toolpath again, move it out another 0.15, because 33.5 is still reasonably loose. I could definitely go another 5/100ths less and still get a nice sliding fit into the dovetail, but I'm pretty sure this is too tight. Now I'm going to rerun this toolpath from the last tool change, which means I'm going to be cutting a fair bit of air, but it's the safer way of doing it on this machine. Okay, I do find that sort of cut compensation somewhat challenging, because effectively you're not just adjusting the cut to cut wider, but you're also doing a spring pass based on the previous cut. So at this stage, although I started at 33.30 and I added, I think, 14/100ths to that, with the spring pass it actually now measures 33.61. Very close to the original, but a little bit looser than I was hoping for. I will adjust the toolpath. I'm aiming for a 33.5. Right, here's the moment of truth. Oh yeah, that fits really nicely, clamps up really tight. Got the same movement the original has. Yeah, very similar. Cool. Well, that's one down and 11 to go. Okay, so this was just cleaning up the dovetail of one which I cut undersize with the wrong dovetail angle. That's the end of my ring light wiring. You know, I think I'll probably make another ring light at some stage. This one was given to me by a viewer. There was a video on it somewhere. The issue with this one, the LEDs are very cold. They're like 6,500 Kelvin or so. So it really white balances poorly with the rest of my lighting system. Normally I use 4,000 Kelvin lighting for basically everything now. I tweaked the toolpath so it doesn't hang up on that hook-like edge anymore. Well, that's not good. It's thrown an insert. Damn. Before that piece I had inspected them and none of the inserts showed any signs of wear, but unfortunately it looks like it's fatigue failed the screw. Hope I can get that back out. What do they look like? I don't see any chipping or damage. Oh, but it's completely loose. Look at that. What about the other ones? Yep, also loose. Yep, all loose. So one of my inserts decided to leave me and it's broken off its screw. Well, that's my bad, because before I started that last dovetail, I inspected those inserts, but I only looked at them visually and I saw that they looked okay and I didn't actually even wiggle them to see if they were still tight. That's on me. Oh, good, good, good. It's coming out. Looking through the macro lens, it looks like I need to sharpen my scribers as well. Alright, I guess all I can do here is make sure I keep tightening these regularly after each couple of passes, because they're gonna come loose again, so I'm just gonna have to keep a good eye on them, I guess. Right, well, I've now spent a few days paint stripping, which is a good example of procrastination. I'm a bit worried about continuing with this job, especially I'm worried about this dovetail cutter not holding up. But hey, it's time to man up and have a shot at it. So this was a dovetail I've already cut. This was the last one I did. What I'm hoping to do here is just do a final pass on this dovetail slot because it's very slightly undersized. But before I check the part, let me just check that tool. So the inserts were already getting loose after one pass, which is not a good sign. So what do? Loctite the screws in? Then what happens if I break one? How do I get a broken screw out? You know, one of the problems with people like me doing stuff like this on the internet is I'm not a machinist, I'm not a tool maker. So people see the way I do things and think, hey, maybe that's the right way to do it. And of course, I made this dovetail cutter following some other internet guys who had done something similar. But what I didn't know is probably none of them tried cutting 12 big dovetails in tool steel. Yeah, these come loose way too easily. I only really see two options here. One is I take them all out and glue them in with Loctite. And two is I braze them all in place and hope that they don't wear out before the end. And if they do wear out, I'd have to just use my tool and cutter grinder to redo the edges. I think what I'll do first is clean it all up nicely and Loctite them in. What would you do? I guess there's a reason you don't see this style of TCMT based dovetail cutters in the tooling catalogues, huh? Now obviously bonding these in place is going to cause me a problem that I won't be able to just index them around to the next cutting edge easily. On the one hand, if I've cut 4 so far and I've got no obvious wear on the edges, even despite them being totally loose, I'm kind of hoping that I can get through all 12 with the existing cutting edges. But on the other hand, I don't really have a lot of options. Whoa, back. Look at that. That screw was just holding on by the skin of its teeth, wasn't it? I have ordered some new screws, but they haven't arrived yet. Of course, if this doesn't work and I break off one screw, then all I can probably do is make up a new cutter. I guess I could try making one with a DCMT or VCMT tool, which has got a tighter angle, basically has a shape that allows you to make a better supported cutting edge. If this doesn't work, I really don't know what I'm going to be doing for content this week. Right, strong Loctite. I'm counting on you. Leave that to dry overnight. See what happens tomorrow. I can't feel any wiggle after that first light pass. Probably doesn't say much about the overall durability though. At least I can now continue and see how many more tool holders I can cut before it falls apart. Right, so that's 4 dovetails done, with another 8 still to go. Okay, so that pass sounded like more vibration. Yep, sure enough. So 3 out of 4 have come loose again. As I've seen before, when the inserts come loose, the dovetail cuts under size. Okay, now this has a very strong vibe of flogging a dead horse, I must say, since the Loctite managed to get me just 2 more dovetails cut, but hey, that's still 2 dovetails cut. I'm actually somewhat surprised that I can just unscrew this. Oh, not good. Screw broke off halfway down. Using that mix 2, that one's also loose. So a bit of Google searching has shown me that only the amateurs use triangular inserts to try and make a dovetail cutter. Oh, and there's my 3rd broken screw. 3 out of 4 screws broken. 1 insert still intact. I think it's time I dismount this dead horse, design and make a new dovetail cutter. Won't get that done this week, so thanks a lot for watching. And my apologies to anybody who watched my previous video on making a dovetail cutter like this and thought, wow, that's a great idea, I think I'll copy that. Because it's a terrible idea.